But yet Africa with 1 billion people, you know, why are we producing our own vaccines, right? And then you got Cuba. Cuba is an example, an amazing example of even in our region, their second industry is biotechnology. They have the most doctors per capita in the world. Cuba sent many of its citizens. They died on the continent of Africa for, you know, in the fight against the British and in South Africa. And most people don't even realize there were thousands of Cubans who died, gave their blood for the freedoms that many take for granted in Africa today. But they export their doctors all over Cuba. You know, doctors visit Bahamas, throughout the Caribbean. But again, that country is put under so much pressure because for them to be successful, it means the very system that we follow would not be looked at as the very best role model. So I believe in full democracy, but even what we've been miseducated about democracy, it's not real democracy. It means, you know, I remember a cowboy movie, I'll share this with you, where there were 3 cowboys and one pulled the gun on his 2 buddies and he said, you know, we're going to share this booty straight down the middle, 90% for me and 10% for you both. Now he's pointing the gun at them and he said, you know, is that fair, right? And they said, yes. So that's the kind of mindset and model that you're talking about. You know, we take Africa's gold, we take Africa's platinum, we take the oil, the bauxite, the copper, the manganese, and yet, you know, you get very little to nothing for it. And then we enrich our economies, and we call that fair trade.
Thank you so much for that. So, what would be your final thought here to conclude the conversation? Of course, it the fine line here is that what we are going through today is linked to where we are coming from. In that people are interested in the resources that we have, and for them to
Yeah,
be able to get it, we need to pass through this refining process of turning out into what we have become today. We first of all need to decode that and then begin to find our way out of it if we are ready to pay the price, because everything have a price. If we're not ready to pay the price now, then we continue to become slave forever. Everybody is fine with that. Nobody is going to kill you because you are a slave, so it's easier to manage you, no? But if you don't want to be a
yeah,
slave anymore, if you are tired, be ready. Then be ready to be shot also because they will shoot you. If you're not ready to be shot at, then be a slave. That is okay for you. So,
yeah.
what is your final thought in it?
It, it's a powerful point you just made, but to me, I can sleep a lot better at night knowing that, you know, my life's purpose is about making a difference for others. And I realize that if people don't stand, it actually will only get worse. So when you think of civil rights in the United States or even throughout Africa, many professionals on the continent today don't realize that many had to die for the little freedoms that they have. For you to be doing what you're doing now, you know, from Italy and connecting the Bahamas and connecting uh, other parts of the region, you know, so persons will hear this message all over the world. As I shared with you, when I was less than a week ago at the Gulf and Caribbean Fishing Institute, I met fellow persons from, you know, Trinidad, every country throughout the Caribbean. We'll share this information with them, and then they will share it with others. So what you're doing is so important, making those linkages. And so if we are to get out of this, we have to dispel the miseducation, deliberate miseducation that we here in the West have a certain perception about Africa and why Africa is in the perceived state that we generally see through various media outlets, and also why we in the Caribbean, Central South America, find ourselves where we are always in a general position of accepting crumbs of resources that rightfully originate and belong to us. And so, whether it's in the conservation arena, you find at the end of the day, we have to get more Africans in the sciences, engineering, and so we can map out what are these resources, what's the best use of them, and changing the policies. If it can work for Norway, if it can work for Qatar or United Arab Emirates, why can't the same model work for us in the Bahamas or any other part of Africa? And so that's the message I would like to leave with. The African has to see ultimately that remaining enslaved mentally, it's to the detriment of future generations, even if they have this, level of comfort financially for helping to maintain the status quo. Like a Native American said, our survival is dependent on nature's survival. Oh, Bear, I wish sometimes I can give every human being $100 million and take away all the clean water, all the birds, all the marine life, and everybody's got their $100 million, and there's no trees, there's no bird, the water is polluted, but yet they would understand very quickly that wealth is not just in the accumulation of how much money you have. As you said, our survival is dependent on nature's survival. And so we have to play an active role in bringing about this change, not only for those who have enslaved us and continue to fuel this system, but even for their freedom and survival as well, is all linked to changing the very structure that we think is the very best and option that we have to follow. Yep, that would be the message.
Thank you so much for that. I like it that much that the conclusion is that at the end of the day, it's not about Africa coming with a revenge now against Europe. That is not the struggle. The struggle is that we want to save all of us. We want to save humanity, including those that are wrong us too. It's not
Yeah.
about this exploitative model of destroying the earth just for a few percentage of people in the world. Only a few percentage, only a small percentage of human beings are responsible for the destruction of this world. So what we are saying, the model that we are saying that should be there is for the protection of all of us. If we are intelligent enough as humanity, we should have learned from COVID-19 that somehow we are
Yes.
all connected. No one is exempt. If we destroy one part of the earth, it's going to affect you wherever you want to hide. So it is for your own good, all of us, that we act responsibly.
Yes, because we have a greater threat if we don't deal with this structure that Europe, because let's think of China. The Chinese might not be coming in with guns into Africa, but if you look at the Chinese parliament and their structures, I don't think in 100 years you're going to see Africans being elected into their parliament like you might see a black elected into the Senate in the United States, while that might have taken hundreds of years. And so you have a more dangerous threat coming to us because China is not moving all through Africa because they're trying to preserve nature. There's this vicious appetite for resources because now they're following that model of extracting the resources by any means necessary. Getting to control the ports, getting to mine the mineral resources, but it's not with a harmony of how do you protect the environment so that the lions and the deers and and nature survives, which is critical to all of our survival. So we have a whole new threat, which is ramped up because they're not coming in with guns, but it's even more deadly. And that, so while Europe did these atrocious things, we have to look at enslavement of Africans even before the Europeans. And the Arabs were the biggest slave traders. And of course, they sold us many lies that, well, Africans were selling Africans without giving you the full context that religion was one of the tools used, that people were divided along religious lines. So therefore, even some of the Africans didn't see themselves in the same way if they were, Muslims or Christians or whatever. They just, same strategy Europeans used to say, well, they're savages, so we can enslave them and so forth. But China, that's a whole other animal. And you think of Russia, Japanese need these resources and so many other countries. And so it becomes even a greater scramble. And again, if you imagine destroying Africa, and where it has most of the farming land in the world, most of the resources that is fueling the planet, just the thought of even just thinking about what, if we think it's bad now. So I think Africans have to wake up wherever they are in the world and not just be comfortable.
We need to wake up quick. Because
Yes.
like I always say here, we don't have any savior coming. No one is coming.
Yes.
We better
It's true.
realize that we better prepare for the game because no one,
Yeah.
the last time I checked, no one was coming. So
Right.
no one is going to save Africa. If we want to save ourselves, we will better do it with our words, with our face, and if the need be with our blood. That is
Yes.
our home.
And
That
you're
is the
absolutely
point.
right. It's but again, that's part of the miseducation because we think, no matter how much we suffer here, there's some milk and honey waiting for us. And so someone could be digging all the gold from around your feet and they tell you to look up in the sky. And without even so yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Yes, it is.
All right. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate
Yeah.
the time and I appreciate the conversation.
Looking forward to next time. I really enjoyed it. And
Definitely.